This week on the WriterCon podcast.
Okay, my advice would be to read a lot, first of all. Read a lot that gives you ideas, and then just write them down and keep until and unless it is polished, and then, get it out into the world to read.
Welcome to WriterCon, a gathering place for writers to share their knowledge about writing and the writing world. Your hosts are William Bernhardt, best-selling novelist and author of the Red Sneaker books on writing, and Lara Bernhardt, award-winning author of the Wantland Files book series.
Thank you, Jesse Ulrich, and hello, writers. Thanks for joining us. Last time, we chatted about the Oscars, and now we're 2 weeks past the Oscars, and guess what? Another movie based on a book won Best Picture. I mean, based on history too, but it was a book based on history that became the movie. What else have we done? We've jumped forward for daylight savings time, causing misery to one and all. And this episode is being released on Palm Sunday. And Lara's just back from a quick trip to New York City. Lara, did you go to the library while you were there?
We did. We did actually stop by the library because Katie hadn't ever been to it. So I had to show off the lions out front.
She is a librarian, after all.
Mm-hmm.
Might as well see the biggest and best. Did she go in?
Yep, she did. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Went inside and found a couple of pins.
Writing pins or stick in your lapel pins?
The second, P-I-N-S, yes.
Pins, not pens.
Pins.
Oh, there's a pronunciation difference. I didn't know. Jesse, I saw your photos from the Star Trek cruise, but now I'm worried. How can the WriterCon Cruise possibly compare?
Listen, the WriterCon Cruise compares in the sense that, one, we're on a nicer boat. So that's nice. And it's not like jam-packed with events where I have no time to sit down in a day. So,
really? There's that much Star Trek programming?
Yes, and it starts early.
It's like our Turner Classic Movies cruise, Bill. I felt like we were scheduled from the moment we got up until we fell into bed at night because there were so many movies and so many things going on and people to meet, and it was super fun, but very busy.
Every year they show, like, at night, they show movies, like, at the pool. And every year I'm like, this time we're actually going to do that because that'd be fun. And we never, ever have time to do it.
Like Star Trek movies? I mean, you've seen them all, right?
I have seen them all, but not in a hot tub. So, my happy place, a hot tub. So.
I gotcha. Well, our interview today is with Bharati Sen, who is the author of the novel My War, My Child, which tells the story of the Bengali Barangona, the war heroines whose lives were brutally torn apart in the 1971 War for Independence. We will talk to her about writing and this profound novel. But first, the news. The biggest news in the writing world right now, and for some time actually has been that some alums from traditional publishing are launching a new publishing house called Authors Equity. Now, just to be clear, new publishing houses start all the time, but this one is getting a huge play, at least in part because of some of the people who are involved, the executives behind the company, like Madeline McIntosh, the former chief executive of a Penguin Random House, the largest publisher in the English-speaking world, and Don Weisberg, the former chief executive of a Macmillan, one of the big five, and Nina von Moltke, the former president of strategic development at the previously mentioned PRH. They say the house is small in terms of staffing and overhead, just 6 employees, but the people behind it are obviously experienced, and that's how they're hoping to attract writers. That plus a change in the traditional business model, contrary to the usual, give an advance up front that the authors really then have to earn out in royalties. Authors Equity won't offer any money up front or guarantee that you're ever going to make anything, but it will offer authors a larger share. They don't quite specify. It probably varies from contract to contract, but they are offering what they call the lion's share of any profit made to the authors. And in addition, they're going to pay monthly instead of, having to wait till maybe twice a year when royalties are paid out. And their books will be distributed by Simon & Schuster, where Macintosh still serves as a board member and, of course, is one of the big 5 publishers. They've already lined up some authors as supporters, like as investors, like Louise Penny, who, of course, is a very well-known crime writer. And so everybody is wondering, is this going to be what makes it the big 6? Or is this the model that allows small publishers and self-publishers to, raise their game a little bit? I don't know. Lara, would you publish with Authors Equity?
I'm very intrigued by this model. I think we're getting the experience and expertise of the bigger publishers, while also the type of one-on-one attention and partnership that you tend to get at a smaller imprint. And I like the idea of better royalty rates for authors and
sounds good to me.
Getting paid on a consistent basis. The idea that money's coming in every month, that's appealing too. There's a lot to like about this model. I'll be watching this. I'm very excited to see this take off, and I hope it goes very well for them.
We'll report back on this, of course. Jesse, even if they don't enlist your man, James Patterson, do you think this can be a success?
That guy, the one author that doesn't need more equity. I think this is a great idea. I feel like there's a shift in how lots of industries that like pay people at random times. I feel like this was part of the Hollywood writer strike too, is like more transparency,
right?
Getting paid more regularly and making it more consistent and knowing what you're going to get when you go into it. I feel like that I think that's going to help more people feel comfortable getting into writing, which I think is one of the major roadblocks that we deal with.
That's great. I mean, there's been a lot of complaining online because, as I said, they've got a staff of 6. They're planning to use freelancers for a lot of the editorial and marketing and publicity. And, people talk about gig workers, which is not necessarily synonymous with freelancers. But, I'm not sure I see why this is reason for criticism. They're obviously just trying to keep their overhead down so they can survive, because they're not going to make their first million the first day, right?
Yeah. I mean, if this has been a success in 5 years from now, they're still using that, then we can complain. But like, they're a startup at this moment. That's how that's how those things start.
Exactly. Okay, news story number 2. This one involves a best-selling self-published author, David Goggins, who is now suing Amazon over counterfeit book sales. Now, we have reported in the past about this phenomenon of people copying books and publishing them in other countries, or publishing a book and claiming it's by a well-known author, even though it isn't. This problem has been around for a while, but now we have a major author basically putting his money where his mouth is to tackle it. And this is David Goggins, who has sold millions, and I mean millions, of copies of his books, but he's suing Amazon to recoup damages he's lost from these counterfeit books. In his petition, it says, and I'm quoting, "Each of these bootleg sales unjustly stole revenue from Goggins. Amazon, however, received revenue from each sale, just as Goggins' authentic profits have been sold." This does not exactly assess blame, but he's making a point. He's getting ripped off, and Amazon is making money by selling anything. Anyway, he recorded a lengthy Instagram video talking about his anger and frustration. And then this is noted in the pleadings for the lawsuit that within days of his Instagram post, Amazon called his people and shut down the sales of counterfeit books, but only after he released the video. Jesse, what do you think about this? Do you think he's right to go after Amazon? I mean, they didn't generate the counterfeit books.
Oh, no, he's 100% right. Like, Amazon puts no effort into protecting creators of things until those creators make a stink about it. Like, Amazon has billions of dollars. They could spend 1% of that hiring people to double check these things. It's
less than
hard.
1%, I think. Yes.
Yeah, I was being generous. So, they like Amazon only fixes problems when someone who is powerful enough to get attention to it draws attention to it. So
let me just say, in case someone from Amazon is listening, that I will take that job for 1% of Amazon's profits.
I will too.
Laura, what do you...
Piracy is theft.
Yeah.
Piracy is theft. That's all, and artists already have a difficult time just trying to support themselves. We aren't paid like doctors and attorneys, and you wouldn't walk into a Starbucks and
I heard
steal a cup of coffee. You would recognize that as theft. Stealing someone's hard work and passing it off as your own is just theft. And I have no empathy whatsoever for thieves.
Yeah.
Right.
Amazon is just as liable as Pirate Bay is for illegal torrents. Right. Just saying you're a marketplace. Yeah,
and the government has gone after those people big time.
So
I absolutely agree with what Goggins is saying. They don't do anything about it because they make money on that sale just as if it was his, but it's taking away from the actual creator, and that's not right.
Yeah.
Well, you remember we reported on another lawsuit, the romance writer who was going after somebody in South America who's doing this. It's obviously going to cost a lot, but you have to admire people who stand up. They're not the only ones it's happened to. You may have read that Savannah Guthrie, the Today Show host, she published a book. Apparently, the publisher underestimated the demand because it sold out completely not long after its release. And almost overnight, a counterfeit market for that book appeared on Amazon because legit copies were no longer being sold.
You should be ashamed of yourself, Amazon. Ashamed.
Yes.
All right. Jesse, cue up the music. Let's talk to Bharati Sen. Bharati Sen, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Bharati.
Hi.
All right. Traditional first question. If you could offer writers one piece of advice, what would it be?
Okay, my advice would be to read a lot, first of all.
Good.
Read a lot. That gives you ideas, and then just write them down and keep until and unless it is polished, and then, get it out into the world to read.
Sure. Now, this is, I think, your second book. You previously wrote a short story collection, right? But this is your first novel. What inspired you to write it?
Okay, I have to start again with my short stories because I started writing, my whole collection was about 20 stories. Out of 20, there was one story that needed to be expanded. I thought maybe that's the reason why I had an odd number of 19 stories instead of 20. So I left that out. So it needed, I wanted to turn it into a novel. So I just write it, I had to work around characters, give it a structure. And then I thought everything fitted together.
And so that became My War, My Child, right?
Yes, exactly.
I love that. My Wantland Files series actually started out, the inspiration was short story collection. And the more I thought about it, the more it turned into full stories. So
I started out writing short stories too, but no one wanted to read them. So I moved on to novels. I think short stories are tougher personally, but that's just me.
Yeah, people say that you start with short stories, but in the end, when you write the novel, later you find that short stories are difficult than the novel because it's like I think you have to create complex characters and then plots and explain like the story like my war and my child. It's like I had to write it with uh, two plots intertwined together. So it's kind of difficult to write. What should I say?
But but you
Timeline.
did a good job on it. And in fact, I just saw one of your Goodreads reviews talks about that, talks about how deftly you intertwine the two plots and how interesting
Yeah,
it is in the story. So
and then
that's nice. You did a very good job.
and then
So,
putting the loose ends together so that you give a good resolution to the story. Yeah.
absolutely. So you lived in West Bengal for some time, and of course
Yeah.
this book is about the war for independence there. Did you include some of your life experiences in the story?
Mm, not with this one, not with the novel. My experiences were mostly with the short stories. That I experienced the things that really happened. But as far as this novel is concerned, it's mainly by through reading and research and short stories.
Research. Mhm.
Yeah, because the year 1971, like at that time when the war broke out, we heard like I think I was in high school, and then I heard like things, the atrocities of war in the newspapers, news. I was just there, and my friend's brother, in fact, he joined the Air Force. He fought there in Bangladesh, so we had,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and then that's how. But then after that, we just forgot about everything, the war and all. It just again, one of these days, we were all talking about the war, and then I thought maybe I could expand this story into. Actually, the first chapter of the book was the short story that
Okay.
I found. It was actually a short story, but then again, I introduced new lot of characters like Nafisa and others. So
It's a good start. Yeah, it was a
it's a
good
good
start.
start.
Very cool. The book release date, March 26th, coincided with Bangladesh's Independence Day.
Mhm.
Are traditional celebrations for that holiday.
Yeah.
What do you guys do to celebrate?
Mm.
Celebrate?
Like I would say that they'll just mm, they'll have functions. I think flag hoisting, and I believe sing patriotic songs and stuff like that.
So not really like the 4th of July here
No, no,
in America. Nothing like this.
nothing like that. No fireworks or
Okay.
anything.
Well, how did you celebrate your new book?
How am I going to celebrate it?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Not yet.
You should probably have a big party. You need to have a big book release
But
party.
yeah, it's in my mind, but I don't know. I might have not a big party. Uh, maybe a small get together.
Yeah, good.
Well, here's a word of advice for the future: throw your own launch party.
Lunch
Don't
party.
leave something that important to amateurs. Just go do it. You know
Yeah.
how long you've been working on this, so celebrate.
Oh, yeah. Definitely celebrate. Why do you think readers are so drawn to historical women's fiction? That's a big genre, big seller. Why do you think we're so fascinated with it?
I think the historical fiction they're the real stories, real women and real stories, and there's some fact and fiction in everything is not fiction over there. You create those fictional characters on the basis of some historical facts. I think so. They're more popular. You can I think so. What else?
Oh, I agree. I think I think it kind of keeps history alive. And in some cases, it's teaching the younger generations through an entertaining format about, like you said, it intertwines actual events with that
Actual
fictionalized
events,
story.
yeah. And some of them can relate to those events because those history is being repeated. If you see,
Yes.
yeah, even nowadays you see whatever I wanted to write in that book, it's happening right at the present world, like about
Right.
the two stories. The impact of the war, it's still there, like Ukraine and other places.
Yes.
So people
I was
can
thinking
relate.
about that when I read it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then,
which is unfortunate.
It is. So even this Bangladesh war, it happened like it's going to be 52 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So we think about the atrocities and everything, but it's still happening. I think it will happen. It'll keep on happening as long as I think civilization is there. I think so. That's how it's not just historic. Another thing I was going to say, there's some romance there in historical fiction. There's always, it's not just war and everything. Next to history and other things, there's romance. Like in my book, I think there's, the impact of the war, it changes the relationship and whatever. Indirectly.
Yeah, there is a nice balance. There's a nice balance of seeing what these women lived through and then seeing them try to move forward. And yes, we cheer for them when they take those steps and something good happens for them. No, it's a nice blend there.
Yeah, that was the moral of the story. Like, everything is not, it's not finished. Or everything. There's some light. You can see the tunnel.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say through the story. Like, yeah.
I don't think a little bit of romance hurts anything. Too bad Jesse isn't here. He could talk about spicy romance, but you may not want that for your book, Bharati, so never mind.
So you talked about the research in this novel. How did you? So a little bit of it, you're kind of remembering what you read about while it was happening. When you decided to write this, how did you research?
Okay, I read books on Bangladesh war. I read quite a few. I was telling you the names of the authors, and then I think most of my research is through internet, like I Googled things. And then again, I was like forced to decide how much history I should put and how much story. History, like it's like I was not writing a treatise, academic
Correct.
treatise. So I cut down many historical facts, but then those are just research work. So I needed to put some history. Like there was one chapter, Operation Searchlight, that was from research. Definitely, I didn't make it up. Like these things happened actually, but the characters I put in there, of course, fictional characters. So that's the only research part I think I did.
The internet really opens the doors for us.
Yeah.
I was kind of fascinated by the story, and I went and looked things up, and I could find newspaper articles and found a lot of things that 30 years ago we wouldn't have been able to access, I don't think.
Oh, yes. So. And there's so much information, and it's overwhelming. So it's really hard to how much you take in and how much you add, and how. Of course, I didn't add anything except that chapter where
your stories, yeah.
History. There's
I have been told. I've been told that you hold a master's degree in international relations.
Yes.
And now you're writing about social disparities and cultural differences and things that I sense that you are very passionate about. Do you think that the passion keeps you motivated to write?
Oh, yeah. That's how I started. Like, see, you don't realize them when you are young, you see them right. Like I grew up in Myanmar, and I grew up in Kolkata also. So you see those social disparities, especially in Indian societies. The rich and the poor and the middle class and things that have. There's a vast difference. So I used to see them, and then they got registered here. I never thought about writing and then talk about them. So that's how it started. Like this, I think it shocked me probably seeing. So I just wrote about them, but it has nothing to do with international relations. International relations is just politics and historical. It's,
Right.
it's just
Right. Well, that's one of the things Lara and I always say at our retreats, the writing retreats, small groups, is, when confronted with, in effect, the question, what should I write? My answer is, what do you care about most? What's
that's
important
true.
to you?
Exactly. That's most important.
And then we
can
figure
say
out
what you care about. Yeah.
the rest, the plot and the characters and whatnot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I hear your bangles, Bharati. I can hear your bangles. Bangles are very important, and they play a big part in the book. It makes me happy to hear them.
That's how I started.
Well, this turned out wonderfully well. What next? Are you working on another book?
Oh, no, not yet.
No, never, or just not yet?
In fact, I've just started writing short stories. You'll be surprised. It has nothing to do with women, nothing to do with social disparity. It is going to be like, what should I say? Spooky stories. I don't know what got into me. I started with like painting that started, a guy bought a painting, and it has, it's like the spooky thing started happening,
Right.
I don't know.
I can see that, though. Just in My War, My Child, you have some very atmospheric and mysterious passages. So I could absolutely
You saw those
veering in that direction.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, Bharati, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Now.
We really appreciate it. Just a few parting words. You won't have to listen to me pitch the WriterCon Cruise this time because the registration is closed, although we're still looking forward to actually doing it. But remember, there will be a small group retreat in July in Branson, Missouri. And then, of course, in the fall, over Labor Day weekend is the annual WriterCon Conference. And we've revised the website, which meant a new registration block, but it's all done and it's all ready for you to register. And if you register now, you get the early bird price, which will save you at least $100, depending upon which way you go. We've got more than 50 speakers lined up, authors, agents, publishers, book marketing experts, and much, much more. Please visit writercon.com to learn more. We also just released a new issue of the WriterCon magazine. Lara, tell everybody about that.
Super fun. We've got a sweet little bunny on the cover. We're celebrating Easter time. We've got articles
rabbit,
about
yes,
the rabbit. Yes. Oh gosh, yes. We have articles on the reality of writing fantasy, guidance on foreign rights, how to prune your publishing rosebush, inspirational and
craft
entertaining. Yeah. And then an inspirational piece by Barry Friedman, and a book on an article about how to connect with potential readers in your audience. Yeah, on and on. Lots of good stuff. And an interview, of course.
Yeah, Barry's piece is based on the TED Talk he just gave, which I had the pleasure of being on the audience for. And let me tell you, it's moving and profound and a wonderful, wonderful talk, not yet released, but you can see the print version right now in WriterCon magazine. Just go to Substack and search for WriterCon, and it'll come right up. All right. Until next time, people, keep writing. And remember, you cannot fail if you refuse to quit. See you next time.